Good morning, nerds. So if you get to know me a little bit, you'll quickly start to learn that I am obsessed with the Beatles. I absolutely love their music, and earlier this year, I started getting into some of their solo work. One album that I quickly took a liking to was Paul McCartney's first solo album, the self-titled McCartney. If you listen to this album, it'll definitely be a mixed experience the first time through, but after a while it grows on you. When Paul started working on this album, it was during the height of the, at the time, unannounced Beatles breakup. And Paul just went into his home studio and just started recording things for fun. It wasn't originally going to be an album, but quickly he started getting things together and he just decided, I've got enough things, let's actually start and make it a thing. One thing you'll notice right away is that the majority of the songs of the album are either incomplete or sort of experimental. But they're just Paul having fun at the tape machine. When this album was announced, at the time most people were expecting Paul to do the follow-up to Abbey Road, which I and many others consider Abbey Road to be one of the greatest albums of all time. But following up what many consider to be the greatest album of all time is something very difficult to do. So Paul didn't try to do that. Paul decided to continue what he wanted to do with the Let It Be album and just go small scale. And I think this album and Let It Be are quite similar. Like McCartney, Let It Be has some songs that don't feel as full or complete as they could be. But that adds to its charm, and those songs do feel like a collection together that are meant to be together, even if they do feel somewhat disjointed and unrelated. Now, with the time I have, I won't be able to say everything I have to say about this album, but I'll do my best to cover the main bits. This album opens with the song The Lovely Linda. It's a soft 45-second acoustic song, and it's only got two lyrics that repeat once. Now, it does have an ending, but the song itself feels incomplete or like it's supposed to be an interlude. It's super sweet, and it's not the type of song you would expect to start off if you're used to the format of a typical Beatles album. But this is not a Beatles album, and this song sends that message right away. After the first track, we get to That Would Be Something, which is another song led by an acoustic guitar, but it does it differently from Lovely Linda. It adds in bass and drums, which, by the way, Paul played all the instruments on this album by himself. And this album is mostly just Paul playing songs that he thinks would be fun to the tape machine and then mixing them all together. The album gets a little more experimental from there. The next track is purely instrumental, and then a few tracks later, the track ends with just glasses being played at random and then overdubbed over top each other. I wouldn't consider this to be an album you would just turn on at a party. This is more of an album that you might listen to while snuggled up in a blanket. It's small scale and intimate and sweet in the best way Paul can do sweet songs. Probably the highlights of this album, at least for me, are Junk and Maybe I'm Amazed. Junk is a sweet song about a junkyard. Now that doesn't sound very sweet, but it feels sad and gives you an odd nostalgic feeling for the junk in the yard. And then Maybe I'm Amazed is probably what most people would feel is the main highlight of the album. It is just a piano love song, and Paul is putting all his emotions into the piano and his singing. It is a strong one, and it hits heavy. And it's probably what I would consider to be one of Paul's masterpieces. The album then closes with Creen Acrore, I think is the pronunciation. It's another instrumental track that goes on for about 4 minutes. Paul got the inspiration for it from a documentary about a South American tribe. It kind of uses that song to bookend the album on the note that it started with. This song is very different from Beatles albums. The deluxe version from 2018 has some tracks after it, but the definitive finale is Creen Acrore. This album is probably up there as one of my favorite albums. When you first listen to it, it'll feel a little disjointed, but after a few listens, you will be with this album all the way. It's kind of like a concept album without a concept. The unifying theme is you're not quite sure where it's going to go next. If you ever have the opportunity to listen to this album, definitely get your hands on it or listen to it up on Spotify. Don't listen to it on shuffle, just let it flow in one sitting without interruptions. It's not going to blow your mind that first time through, but it's definitely going to grow on you. Check it out, let me know what you thought of it in the comments, and don't forget to be awesome.